Busan was nothing like Seoul. It was quieter, simpler. The air smell of the sea and the light were filled with the dazzling city light, but rather the soft glow of a street lamp and the warmth of a small house. You had arrived here with nothing but the clothes on your back soaked to the bone, trembling from the cold rain that pouring miserably that night. You had no destination, no plan, just an unreadable weight off in your chest, and nowhere to go. That's when she found you, Mrs. Choi. The early woman had approached with an umbrella, her eyes filled with concern. Oh dear, what are you doing out here in this weather? You could even answer your extremely too much to form words. Come with me, she had said, not waiting for your response. You will get sick like this, and you follow her because you had nowhere else to go. She gave you a warm bath, dry clothes, and a bowl of steamed soup that you had bravely been able to swallow past the lump in your throat. She didn't ask questions, only smiled gently and said, "You can stay here as long as you need, dear," and you did. Now a few weeks had passed and you had started working at her small cafe, Joy Comfort, a cozy little place in heart of Busan town area. The scent of freshly bean coffee and warm bed filled the air every morning as you bursed yourself behind the counter serving customer wiping down tables. Mrs. Choi treated you like her own, always making sure you ate enough, always checking if you were doing okay, but no matter how much warmth she gave you, your heart still felt cold because every night as you lay in the bed, you thought of him. You thought of his sleepy voice calling your name, the way his hand would reach for you immediately, the way he used to need you, but he didn't need you anymore. You had no place in his life now. He was back to his old self, the cold, ruthless CEO who probably don't even remember your existence, and he was engaged, your chest achy every time you thought about it. You are thinking about something again. Mrs. Choi's voice pulled you out of your thoughts. She stood behind the counter, watching you with annoying eyes. You forced a smile, just lost in thought. She hummed, not convinced. Is it a boy? Your hand is still on the coffee cup you were holding. She chuckled at your silence. Ah, I thought so. It's always a boy. You laughed weakly, shaking your head. It doesn't matter anymore. Mrs. Choi smiled softened. If it didn't matter, you wouldn't look so sad every time you get lost in thought. You had no response to that. Before you could say anything, the bell above the cafe door rang. Signaling a new customer, you turned to greet them and your heart stopped. Jimin standing there breathless, his eyes scanning at the cafe before landing on you, shock across his face before relief washed over him. There you are, he extends, stepping closer. Your entire body froze. Jimin, I have been looking for you. His voice was quiet, but there was urgency in his tone. You shallow, gripping the counter of for support. Why, Jimin? I search you because you deserve to know the truth. Your heart pounded in your chest. What truth? He extends sharply, running a hand through his hair. It's about your breath catch. Jimin next words sent a shiver down your spine. He's looking for you, Ryan. Your finger curled tightly around the counter, your nail pressing into the wood as you proceed. Jimin word. He's looking for you, Ryan. Your heart skipped a painful beat. The thought of things searching for you made something deep inside you achy, but you knew better. He wasn't searching for you, not the way you wanted. He lifted your gaze to meet Jimin's eyes, your throat dry. Why? Jimin sighed, stepping closer. I don't know, maybe something feels missing to him, even if he doesn't remember. Maybe deep down he does remember when. Your chest tightened. No, that was a dangerous thought. Hope was a dangerous thing. You bite your lip, looking away. It doesn't matter anymore. He found one. He doesn't need me, Jimin. Your voice cracked silently, but you force yourself to sound strong. I was just his caretaker. Now that he back to his real self, I don't belong in his world. Jimin frowned. That's not true. Jimin, you took a shaky breath and met his gaze. He is engaged. Jimin's expression darkened. That's just stop. You swallowed the lump in your throat. Jimin, please, Jimin, just stop. Silence stretched between you. Jimin watches you, his jaw clenched, frustration flicking in his eyes. He wanted to argue, to convince you that Jimin still needed you, that you should go back, but you knew he couldn't because you were right. He didn't belong in the world you never had. I miss him, you admit, your voice bravely above a whisper. I miss him so much, Jimin. Jimin gaze softened. I want to see him. You continue, your hand trembling as you grip the counter tighter. I want to hug him, tell him how much he meant to me. I want to hear him call my name again. Looked at me the way he used to, a sharp inhale, but he won't. Your voice broke because I am no one to him now. Jimin's lips parted as if he wanted to say something, anything to make this easier for you, but there was no word that could fix this broken heart. Couldn't stitch back together so easily. You took a deep breath, blinking away the tear from in your eyes. I need you to go, Jimin. His head snapped up. What? You shallow? Please go back to Seoul. Go back to Taehyung. He stepped forward. Ryan, don't do this. You force a smile. I already did. His fist clenched at his side. I can't just leave you here like this. Yes, you can. You made his gaze filmy despite the tear threatening to fall. Promise me, Jimin. Jimin jaw tightened. You promise me you won't tell him where I am. A muscle in his jaw twist. You don't mean that. I do. Jimin stared at you, his expression filled with frustration, sadness, and something else. Pity. You hate that look, he explained sharply, running a hand through, then down in his face before nodding snake. Fine, his voice was rough. I won't tell him. A sharp pain pressing your heart. That was it. Jimin would leave and Taehyung would never find you. This was the ending you chose. The heartbreak, the longing, the pain crashed down on you at once. You dropped to the floor, your hand gripping the fabric of your dress as soap breaking your. As soon as Jimin walked out of the cafe, you felt your knee give out, breathing you. The weight of everything you had been holding in the break. You had told Jimin to leave. You had let go of the only person who could still connect you to. And now you were truly alone, your chest achy with the force of your cries, your shoulders shaking violently. You cover your mouth with your hand, trying to suppress the sound, but it was useless. You missed him so much that it felt like your heart was being torn apart piece by piece. Mrs. Choi worried voice reached your ear, and a moment later warm hand grabbed your arms trying to lift you. The elderly woman kneeled beside you, her frail hand surprisingly strong as she cupped your tear-stained face. My child, what happened? She asked, her voice full of concern. Why are you crying like this? You tried to speak, but the word wouldn't come out. Your throat was too tight. Your sob took uncontrollable. Mrs. Choi signed and pulled you into her arms, letting you cry against her shoulder. She gently stroked your hair, mumbling word to comfort like mother would. My dear, let it out. You have been holding too much pain, she whispered. No heart should have to endure this alone. You clutched to her, your finger grasping the back of her cardigan as if she was the only thing keeping you from falling apart completely. Minute passed, maybe hour. You didn't know. All you knew was that your heart hurt. No matter how much you tried to push it away, your love for him remained deep and unwavering, but you also knew he wasn't yours to love anymore. Day had passed, but the pain in your heart never less. You barely spoke anymore. Your own sleepy spirit, now dull, you forced yourself moved through the motion, walking up the helping in the cafe, pretending everything was fine, but Mrs. Choi saw through you. She saw the way your eyes no longer held light, the way you verbally ate, the way you stared off into the distance, as if was waiting something or someone would never come. She didn't push you, but her voice glared through fluent. Then one morning, as you sat across from at her breakfast, pushing the food on your plate without taking a bite, sudden wave of nausea hit you. Your stomach clenched violently. Before you could react, you shot up from your seat and rushed to the bathroom. Why? Mrs. Choi called quickly. Falling behind you, you barely made it time before emptying your stomach. The so taste, the burning sensation, it was unreadable. Your body trembling, your hand gripping the scenes as you chest heavy, a cold meat broke out on your forehead. Mrs. O'Neill beside you, rubbing your back soothingly. My dear, what's wrong? You have been pale, looking pale for days. You wanted to answer, to tell her you were fine, but before you could open your mouth, dizziness overtook you, vision blur, your body swang, and then everything went blank. When you woke up, you felt a cool cloth on your forehead and soft murmur nearby blinking against the bright light. You tried to sit up, but gently hand stopped you. Stay still, child. Mrs. Choi's voice was filled with worry. You fainted. The doctor just left. Confused, you look around the room, then back to the old woman whose eyes were clouding with a concern. What happened? You asked weakly. Mrs. Choi hesitates, as if searching for the right word. Then, with a deep breath, she placed a warm hand over yours. My dear, she said softly, her eyes kind yet serious. You are pregnant. What? The world stopped. Pregnant? Your heart pounded violently against your rib. Your finger clutched the blanket near you as you tried to process the word. 5 weeks. Your mind raced, counting back the days, the memory of holding you close, whispering your name, the warmth, his touch, the love you never dared to say out loud. This was his child. Tears welled in your eyes, but you wasn't sure if they were a joy or fear or heartbreak, because as much as this baby was a part of him, he wasn't here, he didn't remember you, and he never would. The room was silent except for the soft ticking of the clock on the wall. The world in your mind like a distant bell, loud, hollow. Your hand instantly moved, your stomach trembling silently as you tried to confess the reality of it. A new life was growing inside you, a part of him, the man who no longer remembered you. Tears burned in your eyes, but you blinked them away, swallowed the lamp in your throat. You had no right to cry. This wasn't something you could afford to be weak about. Mrs. Choi watches you closely, her wrinkled hand holding yours in yet comforting grip. Why, my dear, do you understand what this means? You shaky breathe. Yes, I do. She signs, squeezing your hand. You have a decision to make, child. You are still young, and this isn't easy path, but whenever you choose, you won't be alone. I will be here for you. Her kindness near broke you. After everything, after losing your place in life, you still had someone who cared. You wiped your damp cheek and looked at her with a quiet determination. I want to keep this baby. Mrs. Choi nodded understanding, but there was a hesitation in her eyes. And what about the father? Your breath ached, and you look away. He doesn't need to know. A fawn crossed her face. Why are you sure? He has a right. No, you interrupt, your voice vaguely above a whisper. He doesn't remember me, Mrs. Choi. To him, I was just a caretaker, nothing more. He is back to his old self now, back to the everyone fear. Your hand clutched into his. I can't bring this child into his world. I won't. Mrs. Joy sighing sadness, stinging her fears, but she didn't argue. Instead, she reached out, gently cupped your cheek. You are a strong girl, Wayne, but you don't have to be strong alone. I will be help you through this, no matter what. At her word, something in you loose, and for the first time since hearing the news, you allow yourself to cry, not out loud. Because even though he was gone in your life, the part of him always remained with you. The hearing convention was thick with attention. Every since Jimin had stopped in yelling about something he couldn't grasp, the atmosphere changed. Then sat in his office, his finger damming against the desk as he replayed Jimin's furious word.